You get a lot more tries playing rugby now in this era than you did in eras past. I mean, we don't get test matches. The odd one is a 13-10 or something, but most test matches now you get 30 or 40 points between the two teams.
The comparison between the All Blacks and United is fair from the perspective of United lack, and you'll be the first to admit this, they lack some serious hard-ass leaders on the pitch who are holding up a high standard.
Yeah.
Not a coach, like an actual on-field leader.
Roy Keane.
And I think the All Blacks are lacking that as well.
Same. Razor is the coach. If you can't be the coach, then we need another coach, and it's not Scott Hanson. DSPN is brought to you by Novus Glass, proud partner of the Special Olympics New Zealand. The Special Olympics New Zealand National Summer Games is in Christchurch, Otautahi, this December. Across New Zealand, Aotearoa athletes, clubs, volunteers and families are getting ready, training, supporting each other and celebrating as the flame of hope travels down the country. Text Novus to 3598 to support our athletes. That's Novus, Novus, to 3598 to support our incredible athletes at the Special Olympics in Christchurch, Otautahi, this December. Notice it, Novus it.
Welcome to the DSPN.
Team New Zealand's in trouble.
Oh, he's done it again, Ricky Herbert.
The Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
DSPN, Martin, Devlin, Lachlan War. Here's another edition of Mailbag for you people. Thank you so much for all your comments, your interaction, your engagement. We love it all, and there have been so many comments coming in this week as we review the All Black season. We thought we'd do another special edition of Mailbag just to acknowledge the fact that you are commenting, and we need to comment back on your comments. We love all the feedback, absolutely do. Please try and keep it seamless, though. I keep saying that because otherwise the moderator comes in and they do what moderators do, and that's what moderators do. Again, we've got Changing Sheds on Friday, which is our subscription model. It's a couple of bucks a week if you can afford it. We're not saying that you have to. Click the subscribe button on YouTube. You got to do that for us. That really helps. We're over 20,000 subscribers, and we're very pleased and proud about that. And thank you very much for supporting us on that. Next to that's a join button. If you go to Spotify video, you go for Enhanced Flame. What's it called, Lachlan? Extra benefits?
Exclusive benefits.
There you go.
I think there's a similar thing on Apple as well.
Okay. And all that just means is that we provide an extra episode for you every Friday, which is kind of little outtakes and other opinions and bits and pieces. And if you want to support us financially, a couple of bucks.
Newsletter as well?
All
weekly?
of the free stuff, though, stays as it is. And thank you very much, as always, to Novus Glass, our very generous sponsors, and to WebWonks. All right, let's rip into it. First one, I love these kind of comments, and I like kicking off Mailbag with these because it's always peculiar what gets people's goat up. Jean-Pierre Norch says, individualness,
what a name.
question mark, new word, question mark. Come on, Okie. I don't know what Okie is. I suppose it's a Safa word. Are you a journalist? Question mark. I used the word individualness last week. I think I was searching for individuality and I came up with individualness and I didn't know whether it was a word. And apparently it is. Yeah. Oh. Okay. So you learn something new every day. Yeah. But if that's really the thing that's just spiking you today...
Well, I was going to say, to be a South African, that the biggest worry in your world right now isn't your rugby team, it's people's saying of certain words that might not make sense.
There you go. And you'll get a lot of that on this program. This from the BBC. And I think this is particularly relevant to the All Blacks at the moment, Locke, because this is the BBC critiquing the Poms getting absolutely dorked by Aussie in the first Ashes test in Perth.
So disappointing.
This is the quote, and draw the parallels. What you look for is, are you improving? Are you getting better? This England team at the worst possible time, when they have had the best team for the conditions in Perth, have made exactly the same mistakes as 2023. Remember, they botched a test at Lords because they just brainless batting and so forth.
Yeah, and they blamed stumping of Bairstow.
That is inexcusable. I think that this is, we can look at the All Blacks and look at the same, are we improving? Are we making the same mistakes that we did in the very first test against France? Are we making the same mistakes we did last year?
Tell you what, very comparable, the two teams actually, England cricket and the All Blacks. Very good on their day. They swing that bat around and they talk it up when they're probably betting up on the smaller opponents. They look damn good when they do it, but then when they come up against some of the better sides, they just seem to sort of be a bit of a pack of deers in headlights, if that makes sense. So, Look, All Blacks, from the start of last year to the end of this year, which is 2 full seasons, which is half of a World Cup cycle, are they a better side? I think we can all agree. You might want to be nitpicking, saying parts, sure, but overall, they're not significantly better. No.
Yeah, so I gave it a C+. But again, it doesn't mean that we're right, and you've got your own opinion as well. This is all this is. It's just opinions. But I think that when you look at the way we are playing and have played all year, it hasn't been overly convincing. That's the concerning thing for me. We always look for an emphatic performance, and we've had fractions of it in different games. The South African victory at Eden Park aside, because I thought that was magnificent given the circumstances and also given the context of that
Just
game.
quickly in defence of the current regime, I think from the start of 2008 to the end of 2009, I don't know if the All Blacks were much better under Ted in that second World Cup cycle. I think from the very start of 2020 to the end of 2021, we've probably gotten a little bit worse under Ian Foster. So in defence of Razor and co, I don't know if the last few coaches, I mean Shag was different because that team was on another level. I don't know if too many coaches have been so much better halfway through their World Cup cycle than when they started.
Again, we appreciate all the comments. We don't have to agree on everything. I mean, that's the whole point. That's why we're All Black fans. We know this is all up for debate. Sean Revel says, have the All Blacks ever conceded so many tries in a year?
Oh my gosh, a normal name.
Good question. Statman, come for us. Give us the right answer on that. Have we conceded that many tries ever in a year, in a calendar year? Somebody's going to know. I haven't had the time to go through and look at every single game and count the tries. You get a lot more tries playing rugby now in this era than you did in eras past. I mean, we don't get test matches. The odd one is a 13-10 or something, but most test matches now you get 30 or 40 points between the two teams.
There is one year, and 2010, the All Blacks conceded like 20 plus points on a number of occasions. Twice to the Wallabies, I think once to the Box, once to Wales at the end of the year. They conceded 28 points to Ireland at home earlier in the year. Maybe that season they conceded a lot of points. There was a test in Melbourne against the Wallabies where they beat them 47-28 or something, and then they conceded 26.
But tries, he's talking about.
I know. I'm not too sure. That. I mean, I don't know. Someone who wants to look it up. 2010. How many tries did the All Blacks concede that year?
When you look at this year and you think of how many the Box scored in Wellington, how many the Palm scored, it's probably.
I mean, the fact that we shipped 4 against a pretty average Welsh side.
It's going to be right up there, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
Suk Madik 1 says, and I think the same on this. He says, brilliant. We were talking about this during the week. New Zealand Rugby advertising for an inclusivity manager. He said, that's exactly what New Zealand needs right now. That'll sort out the problems. Yeah, I would rather the money was spent on somebody who could actually teach us how to catch a high ball, but that's just me. I mean,
again, in defence of how businesses are run, there is funding that is pushed into certain departments, and that is not in relation to the on-field performance of the All Blacks.
It's going to help, though, isn't it? It's going to help.
But I would imagine the hiring of that role, the people who are hiring for that role, aren't sitting there going, "This is going to make the All Blacks better."
Okay, tell me what that person does apart from attend a lot of meetings, write a lot of emails, review policy.
No comment.
Would Team New Zealand put that under the "Does it make the boat go faster" banner?
No, they wouldn't put it under there because
not.
it doesn't. I will say this, though. So Team New Zealand with the whole "does the boat go faster" thing, that was an absolute total rebuild and sort of sweeping out of what was going on.
It is still absolutely as relevant today for that team.
Oh, no. Agreed. I will say, though, that happened because they were at the lowest ebb of performance, weren't they? I don't think the All Blacks are quite at the absolute lowest, or NZR as a whole. Well, to be fair, financially, NZR aren't far off it because they keep losing money. Didn't they make money last year?
No,
they didn't? Okay.
No.
There is a year in the last
increased income by 150 million, but what the journalists don't report is they increased expenses by 172 million.
Well, yeah, because if your income's at a record high, which has happened the last couple of years, but you're still not making a profit, that means your expenses must be at a record high as well, surely. Yeah. But then they go on about cash reserves. We've got all this money sitting there. Well, why isn't that on the balance? It doesn't matter.
It's just one of those things that we do these days. Everyone needs an inclusivity manager, okay? Fletcher 806 is the book of Leviticus this week. 4, 5, 6. It's a great message.
We love the book of Leviticus.
Always. Somebody who takes that time to write that much, we absolutely applaud. It's a really good text. It's a really good message, but we don't have the time today to go through the whole thing.
Well, what's the gist of it?
Okay, all right, the gist of it. See, that's why we don't, okay? But feel free to read it in the comments section. The Scientist, 47, says, I think the top 6, South Africa, New Zealand, France, Ireland, England, Argentina, way above the rest of the world.
Yep.
You don't have to be a scientist to think that, but there is a definite gap. And the Scotlands and the Fijis and the Aussies who are coming in after that.
I think on their obviously Australia on their day can beat, because they beat the Springboks this year and can probably beat some of the best. I do think Fiji and Scotland can give some of those teams a run for their money. But
can they beat them?
Don't know. Well, Scotland have had 2 wins over England at Twickenham over the last few years. They should have beaten them early this year.
Six Nations,
If Finn Russell gets one of those 3 missed kicks, they win that game. Yeah, in the Six Nations. And Fiji beat England at Twickenham in 2023. That wasn't that long ago. So, agreed. No, there is a gap, but I don't think it's humongous.
Reviewing the All Black season, Ron Mackey says, 2 years on with Scott Robertson, there's something seriously wrong within the coaching team. Hanson needs to go. Jason Ryan needs to get his scrum right. Scrum's gone backwards. There's no defence. Attacking skills non-existent. Selection policy is puzzling. The press conferences are embarrassing. A big improvement needed all round. I put that in because it does reflect a lot of what a lot of people are commenting at the moment. A lot of frustration out there. I'm not sure I agree with it all, but I think a lot of All Black fans are just feeling like we're just muddling at the moment. We're not really going anywhere. And that scrum thing is a concern, isn't it? Because Jason Ryan, I thought, had sorted all this out. Now, remember at Eden Park this year, with about 10 minutes to go, the Box put in a huge scrum against
scored
us.
a try off it. It was our feed, I'm pretty sure.
Monstered us. And afterwards, he said, oh, no, that's just a blip. That won't happen again.
Then the following week.
Our
Similar
scrums
story.
don't appear to be as strong as they were perhaps at the start of the season or last year. So
just quickly,
fair comment, I think.
I saw a rugby championship stat that the best team in the rugby championship in terms of scrum win percentage was the Wallabies, and we were second.
Crazy. Isn't it crazy?
We were like 94%, and the Box were 89, which
This is why you've always got to examine the stats. That's just putting it in, getting it out.
Well, I was going to say, you can be pushed back in your scrum, or it could be about to collapse, and you still manage to clear it and get
Is
it
there
out.
any single person watching World Rugby who doesn't think that the Springboks have got the best scrum?
Over 2 tests here in New Zealand on enemy territory for them, they monstered us.
So, this is where, facts and figures and the percentages can paint a picture which may not necessarily be true.
Yeah.
I saw a great one about English football the other day, and they had this amazing piece of vision of Ryan Giggs playing for Man United. And you know how they have an assist stat now, right?
Oh, yeah, assist, yeah.
Okay, so
It's been around for a while.
the opposition had the ball, we're hearing up the field, he goes chasing after it, slide tackles the guy, gets the ball back, dribbles past a couple of people, runs about 50 metres, puts a pass to you who just squares it back, and he gets the goal. You got the assist.
I got the assist, yeah.
See? So, you got to, temper just because those facts and figures are there, whether they're true or not. Mm-hmm. This from Team New Zealand, and I wanted to bring this up again. This was just from a news story. I think it was RNZ that had this story, and it was about Peter Burling, who's commented on the fact that him and Team New Zealand have parted ways. He's finally made a few comments as Peter Burling. And Grant Dalton, they quote Grant Dalton. He says, he talks about Pete's been an incredible, important part of our success, blah, blah. However, 4 times in a row, which is what they're trying to do, to win the America's Cup 4 times in a row, is a whole new challenge for a team whose unapologetic culture is geared to win. And from the outset, the team needs total commitment from each and every one of our people in the unique roles. Read that again. 4 times in a row is a whole new challenge for a team whose unapologetic culture is geared to win. Now, I just wanted to put that in because that is what the All Blacks, I think, used to be, and I don't think they are now. Team New Zealand are now that mentality that the All Blacks used to have. The only thing they care about is winning.
That's interesting.
And I know Grant pretty well, and I've spent a bit of time with him lately doing a couple of, on-stage interviews and stuff like that. He is the most single-minded, driven person I've ever met in terms of winning. He doesn't give a shite about anything else. Does it make the boat go faster? Will this help us win?
So apparently, Peter Burling doesn't quite fit the mould of being
whatever it is. And when you think about
push for 4 in a row,
can we get rid of a coach? Can we get rid of a captain? Can we do all of those things? We kind of dance around with the All Blacks, and we don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. We don't. That comment there from Grant Dalton says everything about how of real high performance sport mentality.
Agreed. You flame the fire. I mean, I probably do in parts, to be fair, but you flame that fire just a little bit as well, because you sit there and say that an All Blacks play, like if a team wins a test or a player is, if a player's in a position and they win that test, then they should keep the jersey for the next test, even if it's been an underwhelming performance.
In terms of that team sport, I think that.
So if you watch a really average All Blacks win, and let's say there's some players who really stood out and they were really ordinary and they didn't look good, and let's say you've just beaten the Wallabies and then you're playing the Springboks next, and then the Springboks is going to be an uptick in just how tough that test is going to be. Are you keeping that same team?
Well, while you're saying that, I was just thinking, okay, so if we played the Springboks, England, Ireland, Argentina, any of these teams this weekend after beating Wales, I wouldn't have kept the Welsh team, the team that played against Wales.
Well, no, because that's not the A team, to be fair, is it? But my point is, even when you roll out what you think is the A team, this is one that's a drum I've been banging all year, is that even if you've rolled out your A team, but there are some really poor performances, regardless of whether or a win, there needs to be consequence for those performances, because the All Black jersey is such, and the depth of New Zealand rugby and the talent we've got, because we've got a lot of talent, is such that if you don't perform to the highest of highs, no, you lose your jersey, we're putting someone else in there. There's got to be consequence for poor performances.
Actually, I'm leaning towards that argument, yeah. I am. I'm leaning towards that argument.
Get in.
This, and I don't know who this was from, but we're going to put this in. This is becoming a rant, so I'll just leave you with this quote from a recent Gregor Paul article. This is a great article from Gregor Paul, actually, in the New Zealand Herald. It was brilliant. He says, I quote, "As Robertson confirmed to the Herald this week in Cardiff, it is his assistant, Scott Hanson, who effectively operates in the role most would recognise as the head coach."
Whoa, say that again?
As Scott Robertson confirmed to the Herald this week in Cardiff, this is why Gregor Paul is perhaps, him and Jamie Ward, I think, are the two best rugby journalists in the country.
Why on earth would Razor admit that?
It is assistant Scott Hanson who effectively operates in the role most would recognise as the head coach.
So this is something that we've sort of known for a little while, and it was the case at the Crusaders. But for you to say that publicly, Razor?
This is... I'm flabbergasted by this.
Wow.
None of us wanted Scott Hanson to be the coach of the All Blacks. No disrespect to Scott Hanson, but you weren't...
No,
we
wanted Razor.
Given the job. Razor is the coach. If you can't be the coach, then we need another coach, and it's not Scott Hanson. It's not you.
Why would you? If you're a head coach, I would imagine, in a positive sense, you've got
because you haven't earned the right, Scott Hanson, to be the All Black coach yet.
No,
okay, that's the thing. You haven't even coached the Crusaders yet.
No,
there was another guy called Scott Robertson who was meant to be doing that.
But isn't Razor's ego big enough to not ever say anything like that?
It's an amazing quote, isn't it? And just to reveal that, it says an awful lot. Then apparently they had a training session over there in Wales where they invited all the media along, and he was on the paddock, Razor, doing all the coaching. And whether that was just set up for the cameras, I don't know. But that's an amazing thing for him to reveal there. Last week, remember at the press conference, he told us that the assistants are learning on the job. And this week he says that guy there is actually the coach. Or did he mean that? Because if he means that, then we've got serious problems. Because also New Zealand Rugby didn't hire Scott Hanson to be the coach, did they?
No, they hired Scott Robertson.
They hired Scott Robertson.
Like there was a...
So there's a devolution, or is that sorry, Mr. Individualness is going to get me again, of power here and of roles. I want Scott Robertson to coach the All Blacks. I don't want anyone else to coach the All Blacks, otherwise get another coach in to coach the All Blacks. Because to coach the All Blacks, you've actually got to have gone through a process, and you need to have coached at a certain level, and you've got to have won things, and there's got to be all of that in place.
Yeah, but also I was about to say what was discussed, what was laid out as the I guess the structure of employment when Razor got the job and when Mark Robinson and all his colleagues in the board made the appointment. But David Kirk last weekend came out and said, okay, I've looked at the process and it was flawed in how the All Blacks coach was appointed.
It's always been a flawed process, mate.
It has, but this is even more flawed that the head coach, like imagine if Sir Graham Henry, when he got the job and he came out and said, oh yeah, it's actually Wayne Smith and Mike Crott who are the coaches.
In that case, leave, mate.
Yeah, but that wouldn't have happened. That never.
No.
Like Graham Henry would never let that happen.
No.
Shag wouldn't let that happen. Even Ian Foster, I don't think, would have let that happen. I mean, when Joe Schmidt came in, obviously Joe Schmidt had a fair bit of influence and helped turn things around, but I'd like to think, based on the fact that Fozzie was an assistant to Steve Hansen and obviously has some connection to Graham Henry, that he'd sit there and go, I'm still the head coach, by the way. You do your thing, but I'm still the head coach.
Hey,
but he wouldn't even say anything like this publicly anyway.
No disrespect to Scott Hanson here at all.
No. But
it's just that you weren't appointed in that role.
No. Scott Robertson's the All Blacks coach.
Yeah.
He should be the coach. And even if behind the scenes he's not, don't ever admit publicly that the other guy actually kind of is. Wow.
From Tereri Taihoiti. Tereri Taihoiti. I hope I pronounced that right. He says, we done okay this year. And I replied and said, I got to disagree, mate. Since when do we accept the All Blacks being okay?
Yeah.
And he replied to that and he said, oh God, he said, I've kind of slipped into a... Yeah, I said, yeah, that's, this is what the worry is. And this is why when people criticise people like Watto and so forth, who is just absolutely adamant and passionate and has always been the same about wanting the bar to be set up here. The moment that bar gets lowered, the All Blacks become the Harlem Globetrotters, and we go around the world and we play the LA Lollylickers and the Texas Tugboaters, and we hear the All Blacks roll out and they do that. And they stop it, mate. Okay, we're either a team that wants to be Team New Zealand in rugby terms, or we're not. And I want us to be the team that is Team New Zealand in rugby terms. Yeah. That is only about winning. Nothing else. Not about Instagram accounts. Not about shopping malls in Chicago. Winning test matches for New Zealand. From TB 1978, Mr. Devlin on the payroll of New Zealand Rugby, eh? A grade of B for the Wales, mates. Jeepers, you've changed, bro. I love this. Guilty. No, I'm not on the bloody payroll. But I gave us a B.
You in the building.
Let's not talk about that. But I gave it a B because I really enjoyed that test match against Wales. And I always remind myself when I sit down to watch a game of rugby, the reason I'm watching it is not to be critical about it, is to enjoy the game of sport. That's why I watch sport, because apart from United losing at home to Everton yesterday. But
how good.
But I gave it a B because I thought that, there were some really good aspects to the performance. I'll stand by that B rating for that game. However, I gave the season a C+, but I'm prepared to cop a criticism for that.
Well, it's a heavily rotated team, a few new combinations being tried out. Really great to see Ruben Love playing.
I love seeing Caleb playing.
50-plus points scored.
I know that whatever you say about Wales, it's still we had to bounce back against England.
A 26-point winning margin, which is pretty good.
And I was pleased with that. I know we conceded 4 tries and everything else, and so that's all on the negative side of the ledger, but I was quite happy with the way that a lot of the way that we played in that game.
8 tries in that game, I think?
7 tries.
7 tries, excuse me. No, I agree. I would have given probably B or a B minus. I think anytime you can put, it's very easy to. One thing about sports, it's so easy to beat up on the teams that are struggling, but it doesn't take a lot. All it is a little bit of motivation and just being a bit jazzed and juiced and excited for a game where you can actually go out there and put together a performance.
And they did for about 40 or 50 minutes.
Like a couple of years ago, the West Tigers had one of the worst teams, just to quickly talk about the NRL for a comparison, one of the worst teams of the competition. They beat the Panthers, who at that time were 2-time defending premiers. They put 60 points that same year, though the wooden spoon as the Tigers, on the Cowboys, who the previous year were a top 4 side. There are days and games where you can just stir yourselves up and get excited and actually go out there and play well.
A couple of years ago, I think it was after Origin, the Warriors just had an injury-stricken squad and went out there and beat Penrith. It was in
Penrith,
they
beat
Magic
the
round.
Dolphins and the Cowboys, who all were in the top 8 at the time of those performances. The Warriors had a B-side because they're missing so many key players, and they won those 3 in a row.
It does happen.
It does happen.
Quite happy to cop it.
So don't be too critical about Wales, is the point of what I'm saying.
Les Vav, and that's with 3 S's, breaks it all down. A fair grade for the season, he says B-. I gave it a C+, he says. Initial squad selection, A-, good selection. July series versus France, B-. The French B team tested our lot. Lost to Argentina, I'll give that a C. We were rubbish. Can't take away from the Argies' performance, which was great. We defended Eden Park, A-. Job done, should have won by more. Lost to the Box, D. Historically bad performance, the worst performance ever in terms of the scoreboard. November tests, B-. Goodwin versus Ireland, rough versus Scotland, got it done. Too many points to Wales. Lost to England means it's a C+. So he went through the whole season, bit by bit, comes up with a C+.
Yeah, fair enough.
Marius van der Lubbe says, when you listen to the Wallace Atiti interview after the Welsh game, and this was, I thought, a really interesting interview from him too, but you've got to remember again in context, it's a guy at the end of the match who's just played 80 minutes, bashed himself about. He says, if you don't want to stick with us, then go. Then, he said, that sums it up. There isn't the old values there within the team anymore. They're focused on rugby and other things. Rugby just isn't their primary care, and they don't care whether you like it or not.
No, I'll disagree with that. I like that attitude. Because I think that attitude, I hope there's a bit of venom in there that stirs them and makes them think, well, the world's against us. We're going to show you.
Yeah, look, the thing is my attitude to this is, look, the players can say what they want, and we can say what we want. That's fine. I have no problem at all with anything that Wallace said there. And look, if you want to support the team, and if you don't want to support the team, don't support the team. That was his attitude to it. He says, we're going to go out there and we're going to do what we do anyway. At the moment, what you're doing isn't good enough. That's why you get a C+ for the year. Okay, so that's my attitude as a fan. But I respect your right to have whatever opinion you have about it as well. The other thing to remember here is when he says that rugby isn't their primary care and they don't care whether you like it or not. Let's just all remind ourselves here that we constantly get told that we're caretakers of the jersey, we're just there to leave it in a better place. Is that just more NZR PR schmuck, or is that actually heartfelt and true? Because that is what it is meant to be about. The All Blacks, you don't own the All Black jersey. We own the All Black jersey as the public. It's the people's team.
Yeah.
So even though you might be a player, and that, congratulations to you. But that doesn't mean that you actually own the team. New Zealand owns this team, okay?
I don't think they do, but I think the players, and this has always been the case, maybe since the game went professional and they started earning a fair bit of money, I think players have always really had their own interests at heart,
Fine, there was
in
a
their own
selfish
four walls,
world and a
which
selfish business.
is fine. But the difference is they've gone out there and pretty much won all the time because they understand that's important for the brand of the All Blacks, but also their own brand as well. The difference is now obviously we're not winning as much. So I think it's always been the case.
Our job as
attitude.
fans is also to hold the team to account, because when you're in that All Black bubble and all you get is in that bubble. This is why I always am frustrated with the social media messaging from the players' individual accounts as much as the All Blacks, is that, there has to be something outside that bubble, because within that bubble, I'm sure that the Man United players tell each other they're having a fantastic season. The truth is they aren't. The truth with the All Blacks is that it hasn't been a great season. You can tell each other as many times as you like, you've won 10 and lost 3. Okay?
Yeah.
But look at the season in totality, and I think most of us are in agreement. It hasn't been a great season.
No, I agree. And actually, just quickly, I think the comparison between the All Blacks and United is fair from the perspective of United lack, and you'll be the first to admit this, they lack some serious, hard-ass leaders on the pitch who are holding up a high standard.
Yeah.
Not a coach, like an actual on-field leader.
Roy Keane.
And I think the All Blacks are lacking that as well.
Same. And look, you guys will critique yourself, your players, always. But if you're happy with the standard that you're at, I'd be gobsmacked.
You need someone in there to tell you this isn't good enough.
And this is what I actually think the coaching group needs. I think it needs some dissenting voices. It's never comfortable in a workplace when you've got people, and we have it all the time, we have critique meetings and all of that, where you have people that will sit there who will niggle away and they'll say things and they'll bring up things, and you may not like it, but the whole point of it is that you're all trying to get to the same point.
We're all on the same team.
That's it. And so just because somebody criticises you doesn't mean they don't love you. What they're trying to do is actually get you to think about it and get you to be better. And you don't get better by somebody blowing smoke up your ass 7 days a week. You don't get better that way. All right, couple to go. Murray Walker. Turning a corner. Now, remember, Razor said this in an interview during the week that we've turned a corner. Turning a corner is evidenced by the results after the fact, not wishful thinking beforehand. I again was just thought that, man, that was a weird comment from Razor. I really did. It was weird. We'll leave it with 2. Aaron McKechnie says, the problem is part of the problem. Another problem is the incredible amount of overthinking many are doing with the problem. Let it go. Trust in the people. Trust in the process. Focus. Be positive. Inspire. Stay positive. Focus. We never lose. We just run out of time. Get up. Show up. Never give up. The All Blacks.
Gee.
Okay, descending. No, yeah, but you're right. He's okay to have his own opinion on it, right?
Yeah. I'd be totally on board 100% if the performances were getting better. I don't think they are.
NZR Chief Executive Mark Robinson said, quote, when he hired Razor, I'd like to congratulate Scott on his appointment. His coaching record speaks for itself in terms of success, but what came through strongly during the interview process was his innovative approach to the game, his passion for his players, and his desire to add to the All Blacks' legacy. We firmly believe he's the right person to lead the team.
There's no point having an interview process because you decided before you'd even started that he was going to be the coach, so what's the point in saying all that?
We will leave it with Gilda34, who said, imagine Mark, this is Mark Watto Watson, being your dad and you have to deliver that school report card for him to sign up.
Oh, gosh.
Can you just imagine, straight A's. Watto says, God, it must have been an easy curriculum this year.
What about an A+? Where's that?
Straight A's.
Means
Go there and do a marathon. More time to mow the lawns. Thank you so much for your comments. We'll do this again on Friday. We appreciate each and every one of them, and we love all the engagement. Keep it coming, people. Huge thank you to Novus Glass for sponsoring this episode of the DSPN and for being a proud partner of the Special Olympics New Zealand. This December, over 1,200 incredible athletes, along with hundreds of volunteers, coaches and other support staff, will be making their way to Christchurch or Tautahi for the Special Olympics New Zealand 2025 National Summer Games. Novus Glass is proud to be supporting something special, and you can help support the athletes too by texting Novus to 3598. That's Novus, Novus 3598. Thanks again, Novus Glass, for supporting us here on the DSPN. Windscreen, crack or chip, notice it, Novus it.
DSPN.